Martin Luther King Jr. is arguably the most celebrated man in American history. I actually can't think of another person who's as widely loved by people on all sides of the political spectrum, not only here in America, but around the world.
From 1956 until April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. may have done more to achieve political, social, economic justice than any other person in the journey of American history.
Today I'm talking about the 2018 HBO documentary King in the Wilderness. Through archival footage and interviews with key players surrounding MLK during the final years of his life, it paints a beautiful and heart-wrenching picture of Martin as he faced the ire of the nation before his assassination.
The loneliness and what it must have felt like when he was so abandoned by so many and told to stay in your place.
He really felt betrayed. And he said over and over, "They don't know me."
They applauded me. I told Negroes to be nonviolent. These same people are damning me when I say you ought to be nonviolent toward little brown children in Vietnam.
The way all of America turned on him when he stepped into the Vietnam drama was perhaps the single most challenging moment for Martin.
I've probably watched this film a good 10 to 15 times, and without fail, every time I watch it, I cry. One of the best things about the film is that it humanizes someone whose legacy has been whitewashed, someone who's larger than life. It makes him relatable.
As much as he did, he always blamed himself for not doing enough. He was a kind of workaholic where he was never content. He was driven by a kind of a need for perfection. And he was always feeling that he wasn't doing his best. I think because of his feeling that somehow he wasn't good enough to be the leader. Those were periods when he was really just physically exhausted.
MLK was someone who loved people, and I think that's why he is still universally loved. It's come through in the culture. We understand that about him.
Martin understood that if you ran with folk, you could organize folk. Remember, we've spent all of our lives being hated in one form or the other. But when we see somebody who really cares for people, period, right? That person is worth knowing.
One of the main functions of our hellscape apocalypse neo-feudal capitalist system is to humiliate the vast majority of people. When people feel like they're lower than dirt, they won't get too uppity and they won't rebel. That's why we crave to know people who make us feel like we are somebody, like we matter.
And those young men came back a number of times to see Dr. King.
Yeah.
People in the community, they would just hang around waiting for him to come downstairs, so they could see him. But he would invite them in, sit down and talk to people. They didn't think he was the kind of person they could talk to. Then it made them feel, well, honestly, that they were worthwhile as well.
MLK was someone who was willing to sacrifice himself, but never others. This is the Christian ideal. Especially in those final years, he seemed to be trying to genuinely live as if each day might be his last.
I know all of you are studying hard and you're just doing fine in school, and I'm glad to see you. We're glad to see you. Thank you very much.
I think he always knew that each and everything he did could be the last thing that he did. And he used to say that if you're really going to be free, You have to overcome the love of wealth and the fear of death.
There are two interesting sections of the documentary which bring out an element of politics humanity, especially in the West, has been grappling with for hundreds of years. That is the false progressivism of liberals, liberal cities, and liberal institutions. One section focuses on marches the SCLC organized during their time in Chicago.
I remember marching through Gage Park. And the difference in the South, you had maybe a couple of hundred at most of the riffraff, the Klan. But in Chicago, it was 10,000. I mean, everybody came out.
The other section has to do with the reaction MLK received when he spoke out against the Vietnam War, which is eerily reminiscent of the reaction people like Greta Thunberg have received for speaking out about the Palestinian genocide.
He said, you expect your enemies to disagree with you. What I didn't understand is how our friends would leave me. They stopped giving. They stopped calling. They stopped caring. And he was devastated.
The section dealing with his final hours always chokes me up. He really seemed like he knew he was about to die, but he faced it with peace, love, joy, and equanimity. We all die, eventually, and when my time comes, I just hope I can face it in a similar fashion.
I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
What would MLK Jr. think about our world if he were alive today? Undoubtedly, he would be horrified, but I have a feeling he would also be pleased to see the lasting impact the movement he was the leader of for many years has had on our society. As philosopher, linguist, and political dissident Noam Chomsky has said, the movements of the 60s civilized the nation by awakening people's consciences. At a time when our world seems to be spinning into an apocalypse, at a time when we seem to be in the twilight months and years of humanity, how can we show respect and admiration for the legacy of selfless people like Martin? He says something in this documentary which has stuck with me for years, ever since I first watched this documentary. It's in response to Harry Belafonte asking him if he ever feared for his life.
Hey, do you fear for your life?
Not really. I face the fact that something can happen to my life. Ultimately, it isn't so important how long you live. The important thing is how well you live.
Do yourself a favor and go watch this documentary. The link to a free full-length version of the film on YouTube is in the description. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.